Good, lovely evening, everyone. You'll probably be hearing this in the morning when it actually gets to upload, but welcome to the other news you have never heard on TV. You will never hear these things on TV. Why? Because they don't want you to know these things. I hope you are doing well and praying often for repentance of your family, yourself, and your loved ones, and for your neighbors, that we can all get back to the Lord and return to Him and start doing the will of our Father in heaven, because things are ramping up so very quickly, folks. I really just don't know what to make of these days. It's crazy, and I know exactly why. Yahweh did not tell Daniel, did not even begin to reveal to him all of the crazy stuff going on at the end of days here, because we barely can catch on. We barely can keep up with the information in the alternative media news realm. So I have no idea how God would even begin to explain it to Daniel in his little timeline of life. So there are several things of great importance that you all should know. There are several different strategic people and people groups that are being initiated to go into Afghanistan and start rescuing not only just the Americans that have been abandoned there, betrayed and abandoned there by the Biden administration, but they have also all of the interpreters and people who have helped during our whole 20 years of being there, committed, people to the cause of the democratic way of life, who believe in individualism and the right of a free person. Among these are Mercury One's The Nazarene Fund with Glenn Beck, and I will provide the link below in the description box for the video he came out with today. They're hitting some big time snags with the State Department, go figure. And they're really dragging their butts on trying to get the correct paperwork and the passports filled out to where a lot of people can just start taking off. So Rudy Atala, who's in charge of the NazareneFund.org, is basically taking over, and he hasn't slept in probably 3 days, I think he was saying. And so he has been at this the whole time, trying to find a way around some of the blocks that have been thrown in their way of getting these people safely out of there. He's basically telling you how it is on the ground. These folks, there's about 60,000 people inside the airport at Kabul, or Kabul, however you want to pronounce that. And the conditions are absolutely disgusting, folks. He says there are feces and urine droppings everywhere on the actual airport. And people are really suffering from dehydration now, and there is no food, and the conditions there are just absolutely horrific is what they're saying. So they actually made it out with the first, I think, 350 people. They successfully were able to do that, but it wasn't from inside the airport. They are getting people from the outside right now away into other countries. They have to do these secret little expeditions because everything is under the wire right now, because too many people are involved and too many interests and agenda are at play as well. So now that the whole world has been screaming for not just the resignation of General Milley, which he's basically said that he was going to resign, which is the same thing as retire. Pretty much Mark Levine and a lot of other commentators right now, I am in full agreement with the Biden people who were involved in making this decision in the Biden administration. The Secretary of Defense and General Milley should all be court-martialed, and they should do it before General Milley decides to retire or resign, because it's better to do it while they're in active duty. And Biden needs to be court-martialed and not just impeached for his dereliction of duty, period. Biden lied about the situation on the ground in Afghanistan. He lied about how the world reacted to his foreign policy debacle. Americans' lives are now held hostage by the accelerating Taliban Wahhabi rule in Afghanistan. There are reports that the kill list is long as identities and bank records of Americans are being retrieved from the U.S. Embassy. Passports are being confiscated as the outer perimeter outside the airport becomes a chaotic hunting ground. Meanwhile, it has been days with only one disastrous interview between Biden and the Democratic operative George Stephanopoulos, which was absolutely disgusting. After that, I blew it and made my last video, which, was very passionate and emotional. I should have been more professional about it, but truly, it's the most disgusting thing I've ever seen in my life, and pretty much in the couple of generations of life here on the earth. The past generations here have probably been just dismayed at the whole thing. So Biden also ignored the $10 trillion terror cell he had just created and ignored the tough details to send special forces to rescue Americans behind enemy lines. Biden then implicated that our allies in his disaster lied about the rest of the world's reaction, and then let the cat out of the bag that the questions were pre-planned with an NPR reporter changed his question. Then the vice president, secretary of state, and president turned their backs on America and went AWOL. Either they were merely hiding from the mistakes they can't arrogantly talk their way out of, or worse, they are preparing future operation rhetoric for the bloodbath and refugee invasion that is coming. So Pentagon Office of the Inspector General recently verified that the Taliban has continued to maintain its relationship with Al-Qaeda, and has provided safe haven in Afghanistan. This monstrous crisis has revealed that Biden's regime is just as inept as its leader. So the second thing that's going on, in the last video, I talked about how the Germans and whoever else was involved. I know it was the Britons and the Germans. There was probably the Italians and some other regiments coming in there to get their people out as best that they could. But now I think everybody's been so quiet the last few days, and over the weekend, they were scrambling is what they were doing. They were scrambling, trying to figure out how to fix this mess that Biden has created. So at the war zone, thedrive.com, what the Civil Reserve Air Fleet is and why it's been activated the third time in 70 years. This fleet can dramatically bolster the Pentagon's own air transport capabilities, and that is what it will do for the evacuation of Afghanistan. Now, two things about this, folks. You're going to learn I didn't know anything about this. For those of you who are not in the know, you're going to learn what the Civil Reserve Air Fleet is about and who it employs to get the job done. The second thing is, why isn't our military going back and taking care of the job they should have done to begin with when they were called out, when they were told to leave Afghanistan? Okay, that's two big things, questions right there. So I'm going to get to my third thought in a moment. This is from Joseph Threvrick's article. That link will be in the description box below. U.S. military has turned into a little-used arrangement with commercial airlines and charter companies through which it can compel them to provide aircraft to support various operational requirements in a crisis, to support the ongoing evacuations out of Afghanistan. Some 24 companies are part of the Civil Reserve Air Fleet and agree to provide aircraft and crews in as little as 24 hours as needed. In this case, the planes will not fly directly to Hamid Karzai Airport in Afghanistan, which is the nexus of the evacuation mission, but will instead help ferry evacuees who have been brought to intermediate locations to more permanent destinations. The Pentagon announced that Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin has ordered the TRANSCOM, the U.S. Transportation Command, to activate Stage 1 of the Civil Reserve Air Fleet. At the time of this writing, American Airlines, Atlas Air, Delta Airlines, and Omni Air are each set to contribute 3 aircraft as part of this activation. Another 4th will come from United Airlines, while Hawaiian Airlines will provide 2 more. U.S. military officials have not specified what types of planes make up this fleet of 18 aircraft in total. The DoD and the Department of Commerce formally established the CRAF in December of 1951. The decision was a direct result of experiences from the Berlin airlift just a few years earlier, in which the commercial aircraft had been utilized in an ad hoc manner. Airline and charter air transportation companies participated in the CRAF via contracts with TRANSCOM. Participation is entirely voluntary, but firms that do so are given preference when competing for U.S. military peacetime passenger and air cargo deals as an incentive. There is a video here that talks about the CRAF, Civil Reserve Air Fleet, 1977. That was truly amazing. You should probably come check that out at thedrive.com, link in the description box below. Aircraft from participating companies are assigned to support either international or domestic requirements based on their capabilities. To participate in the international segments of CRAF, carriers must maintain a minimum commitment of 40% of its CRAF-capable fleet. Aircraft committed must be U.S. registered according to the U.S. Air Force. CRAF carriers must also be able to provide 4 complete aircrew for each one of these committed aircraft. The U.S. military reviews the status of participating companies and their fleets regularly to make sure they still meet these and other requirements, including maintenance and general safety standards. As of this month, 24 carriers are enrolled in the CRAF program and have committed 450 aircraft in total. Of these planes, 413 are in the international segment, while the remaining 37 are in the national, domestic, and segment. These numbers are subject to change on the monthly basis, says the Air Force, which also includes a complete list of participating companies, blah, blah, blah. There's another video if you guys want to look at that. So the actual activation of these reserve fleets is broken into 3 stages. The first, which is mobilizing now to support evacuations from Afghanistan, being sized to respond to regional contingencies. Activating the second stage would increase the overall number of available aircraft, and they are structured around the expected demands of a major theater war and a general national mobilization, respectively. That's a lot to be said right there, and a lot to think about. When notified of a call-up, the carrier response time to have its aircraft ready for the CRAF mission is 24, 48, or 72 hours, depending on which stage is activated. This reserve fleet has only been activated twice for actual operations since its creation. The CRAF have taken part in exercises over the years as well. The first instance was 1990 to support the Gulf War, while the second came in 2003 as part of the U.S.-led invasion of Iraq. So another thought I've had here is that the State Department is actually involved in this, and they may be dragging their feet knowing that these other people like Glenn Beck and other entrepreneurs are going ahead and using their own money to get the people out, but they're running into the red tape, the government red tape that's tangling everybody up so that they can come out on top of this. Do you catch what I'm saying? And so that they can override this blistering, shameful defeat that they have brought upon themselves. They're literally trying to scrape their ego off of the sidewalk. So catch this, the charter flights have already been bolstering the U.S. military air bridge out of Kabul, and the DoD said it has helped approximately 17,000 people, which the vast majority are non-U.S. citizens, to get out of the country just last week. So I hate to be a little bit of an American twit here, but, you know, Americans first. We're like number one on the death kill list. I think we should probably get out first and then start getting everybody else out. Anyway, what a nightmare this is. So there is also a tweet from Howard Altman, which is explaining the Afghanistan update via the White House pool. They're stating that the White House officials are passing along that General Major Taylor briefed this AM in the last 24 hours. 6 U.S. military C-17s and 32 charters departed Kabul. Through his effort, the total passenger count for those 38 flights was approximately 3,800 people. Since the end of July, we have relocated approximately 22,000 people. Since August 14th, they have evacuated approximately 17,000 people. So, folks, did you catch it? This has been going on since the end of July, okay? And we just got caught up back in the very beginning of August of all of this stuff going on. This was from Shelby Talcott, which is from the Daily Caller. This article is very lengthy, and it has a lot of tweets and a lot of really good information, because it gives me hope reading this that somebody's doing something and things are getting done, whether or not it's slighting other people or private entrepreneurship who's trying to, you know, get stuff done as well. Whatever it is, the case may be, human beings are getting saved. Folks, I also encourage you at this point to please pray for the Nazarene Fund so that they can get in and do what God has ordained them to get accomplished, and which souls they are supposed to be picking up and taking to safety at this time. Folks, if we can all just work together, the military and the civilian, you know, evacuation, if everybody can just work together, we can get them out in small time, and the Taliban can have their country and kill themselves off over there. You know, whatever it's going to be, it's going to be. Hopefully we can get as many people out before that bloodbath begins. Coming out of Sky News a few days ago, a tweet from them, thousands, maybe tens of thousands, crushed as far as the eye can see at the front. Right where the soldiers are standing along the fence, and then all of the Afghanistan's praying to get through the gates to get out of there. The Taliban militants are beating the Afghans with canes. It's desperate. It's beyond desperation. And thousands upon thousands are hoping that they can flee Afghanistan. This is the worst we have ever seen, people are saying. So the reality on the ground is the French and British troops have been operating in Kabul to help get foreign nationals and at-risk Afghans inside of the airport, and the German military announced last week that it is deploying a pair of helicopters to help support similar operations. So this is, you know, part of what disgusts me so much. The U.S. military has acknowledged conducting one such rescue mission in Kabul itself, despite reports of at least one other similar operation. The Pentagon has continued to say that there is no intention of sending American forces out on these kinds of missions on a more routine basis. See, this is where I get confused. Why is the military being pulled out of this entire situation and everybody else is being used to clean it up? I don't get that part. I'm missing something. So big deer in the headlights kind of ordeal going on. What is happening to where we cannot send our American forces back over there with what little American forces are there? Why aren't we reinforcing them? I have thought about this all weekend, morning, pretty much all day on Sabbath, just totally depressed about the whole situation. And our brothers and sisters in Christ over there and what they're going through is just tearing me apart. Thinking about it, it occurred to me on Sunday night while I was canning all of my foods that I need to prepare for Shemitah, that what if something really horrific is going on with Taiwan right now, and all of our military are being drawn back in to be sent to the South China Sea right now? What if this was like a massive coordinated effort, that's secretly going on, and the reason why they had to bail at this point? Is that an excuse? No, because our military is supposed to be the biggest military in the world. And, well, it isn't anymore, folks. China has outnumbered us by far for a very, very long time. And it may be something that we are not aware of, that they did all this to begin with. It may just be the biggest buffoon in all of the presidents of the United States of America. I'm just really scratching my head so bad right now, because the way that we left has left America basically worse than a third world nation. This is one of those scenarios where you have an employee that burns all their bridges and they're eventually fired from their job, and they can't go out and get a similar type of job. They've burned every bridge that they built. And this is like basically what America just did. We burned all of our allies in the entire earth right now, in every nation. And nobody trusts us right now. Absolutely nobody trusts us. And quite frankly, I don't blame them, because as long as this regime is in the Oval Office, we are not going to see many better things coming out of this entire ordeal and the new ordeals he may be getting us into right now. I just don't understand why the lies are so intense. Jen Psaki keeps claiming that there are no Americans stranded in Kabul. And even CNN people are fact-checking her, and they're calling her out, saying, yes, there is. They're calling them for their lies, but they are still speaking the lies and trying to force this agenda out there. It's not making any sense. And the problem with this is that so many people are so loathfully ignorant about what is really going on in the world, what the alternative news media is talking about, who is only listening to the single-eye TV tell them all of these lies, and they have no other way or other forms of information coming into them except for this one propaganda lie stream coming into them, that people are taking this. They're literally taking it for what it's worth. Meanwhile, Biden is talking more and more about celebrating the FDA's approval of this gene therapy that is actually doing a lot of damage to a lot of people right now. You should see the articles that I see every day, folks. I am struggling to try and find time to start a place where I can just start posting things daily. Like every day, something I see, I'm just going to post it. And I've got to figure out how to get that going right now. And Biden is basically saying to the un-VAC'd, it's time to get your VAC. Your time is now. And right now, they're going to start rolling out their complete agenda. They're going to start mandating, enforcing, and it's going to come down to this, folks. Now, tell me that this is not the mark of the beast. Tell me that they're not going to tell Americans, like they've been doing with French civilians, French citizens, that you can't go into the grocery store and buy groceries for you and your family. Tell me this is not coming to America right now. Tell me. Give me proof that this is not the mark of the beast or its greatest trial run yet. Tell me that this is not happening, because I want to believe this is not happening, because this is craziness. It's crazy that they're pushing this It's crazy that they're mandating everybody get the VACs except for their own inner circles. Jen Psaki hung herself on this. She says, of course, everybody has to have the VACs. And she was asked, so does Biden's administration have to have it? And she's like, no, of course not. And the CNN guy was asking her, he's like, did you get it? And that's none of your business. That's HIPAA. That's my personal medical information. But yet nobody else gets those privileges. Okay, so now the other things we need to talk about are, as of today, Monday the 23rd, the Taliban has now moved up their time period. So they've already chosen who's in their hierarchical structure. Now they're issuing their demands, just like hostile people are. The Taliban has said it will provoke a reaction if the U.S. does not get out by August 31st, and has threatened consequences if the U.S. does not leave by that time and choose to extend the deadline for the withdrawal of troops. This is coming from the Taliban spokesman, Dr. Suhail Shaheen, said the group will not accept an extension to the deadline and warned of retaliation if Western forces extend their occupation, since the group dramatically swept into power. So also the return of ISIS is becoming a new reemerging threat. Not just in Afghanistan, folks, but we have sleeper cells now here in America because of our wide open southern borders. This was another thing of news I thought was important. Bennett hides the Israeli flag lapel pin upon entering the Israeli Arab town. This is the new Israeli Prime Minister, Naftali Bennett, who's obviously ashamed of being an Israeli, arrived at the Arab-Israeli town of Tabi, or however you say that, last week, where he removed his signature lapel Israeli flag pin. In response, opposition MK Regev sarcastically quipped that perhaps Bennett should don an enamel pin of Arab MK and head of the Ram faction Mansour Abbas. It cracked me up. Oh my gosh. This is all just supposed to happen, right, folks? This is all these stupid people, these ignorant people have to be in play right now in order for the Antichrist to rise to power, for God to move upon the earth, for Yeshua to come and get his bride. And yeah, it's all happening, folks. If you don't get right with Yahweh, if you don't repent and turn from your ways and start to follow Yahweh's will for your life and what he wants you to be doing, folks, it's going to get really bad for you if you do not choose him today. Choose today whom you will serve for all eternity. So I have to say that as the earth is preparing for war, heaven is preparing for a wedding. Did you get the invitation? You sure did. Are you going to shove it off and say, Lord, I got other places I got to be. I got a field I got to tend to. I've got a job. I've got a wife I've got to please now. Blah, 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 blah. All right, I'm going to get to a few more articles. I'm saving the best for last. You always know the best ones are the last ones in this channel. Oh my gosh, it makes me God bumps come up all over my arms. All right, this one's a good one, though. Why is the National Guard hiring internment resettlement specialists? Okay. Who caught this? Oh, yeah, it was Jeff Thompson, the organic prepper. I don't know if you guys are subscribed to him or look at any of his articles. It's a pretty good site. He found this. He did find this, and he saved all the information. He made sure he copied it so he could post it everywhere just in case they took it down, and they did. So the National Guard is hiring internment resettlement specialists. Let that sink in. The National Guard has now removed the job listing. However, they have captured the screenshot to validate it. Organic Prepper acquired this link from Indeed.com, posting this position for the National Guard on 8/16 of 21. With Biden's sudden withdrawal from Afghanistan, you might think that is the reason for the resettlement aspects in these listings, except they appear before the withdrawal. What does an internment resettlement specialist do? According to the National Guard's website, the overview states, internment resettlement specialists are primarily responsible for day-to-day operations in a military confinement, correctional facility, or detention internment facility. Job duties: supervise confinement and detention operations, provide external security to facilities, provide counseling guidance to individual prisoners within a rehabilitative program, manage and maintain prisoners, internees, and their programs. Skills learned: military laws and jurisdictions, self-defense and the use of firearms, interpersonal communication skills, research, restraint, and custody control procedures. Why is there a need for internment resettlement specialists? The job posting listings were available in these locations: Lancaster, California, Washington, D.C., Denver, Colorado, Edinburgh, Indiana, Monticello, Minnesota, Parkville, Maryland, Asheville, North Carolina, Auburn, New York, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and Rapid City, South Dakota. Either the National Guard very quickly filled these positions, or someone is attempting to hide something. The link now all states 0 jobs found. So why on earth would the military branch, primarily designed to remain within U.S. border, needed internment resettlement specialists? Although we have seen several deployments of National Guard to the Middle East within recent years, recent historical events to consider, we've witnessed the exponential growth of Big Brother-style surveillance throughout the world over the past 2 years. Part of this has included developing lists of those willing to get specific papers and those who are not. The demonization of those refusing to get VAC papers is ongoing. We've discussed the very real potential of another lockdown coming this fall. That is probably going to happen, folks. It's going to be worse than the first one. Many did not comply with the last, and likely many more won't abide by the upcoming ones, but they're going to involve the military, I bet, this time, just like what's happening in New Zealand and Australia. Just look at the massive protests taking place throughout France, England, and other nations worldwide. Then the American government created a course discussing how a massive quarantine rule Americans effectively. And the National Guard began going door to door with public health workers to convince people to get their jab. Are more severe measures and green zones in our future? Biden is now floating an idea of banning interstate travel for those who refuse the jab. Another possible measure discussed is changing how the feds reimburses treatments for un-VAC'd patients who become ill with the CV-19. The CDC recently presented a document for consideration of, quote-unquote, the shielding approach to prevent C-19 infections in humanitarian settings. The document describes the shielding approach as, and I quote, the shielding approach aims to reduce the number of severe C-19 cases by limiting contact between individuals at higher risk of development severe disease, high risk, and the general population low risk. High-risk individuals would be temporarily relocated to safe or green zones established at the household, neighborhood, camp, or sector, or community level, depending on the context and setting. They would have minimal contact with family members and other low-risk residents. Furthermore, the CDC's documents give suggestions for effective implementation. For example, it may be necessary to assign someone within the green zone, if feasible, to minimize movement in, out of the green zones. And now the National Guard is looking for an internment resettlement specialist. How many times have these rules changed? First, we heard there was no reason to wear a mask. Then N95s with a one-way valve was unacceptable. Later, multiple cloth masks were the key. Totally useless, in my humble opinion. 2 weeks to flatten the curve was all it was going to take. Now, some argue that it could be years before the restrictions are lifted, if ever. Then, if anyone believed that VAC passports were the next step, they were considered crazy conspiracy theorists, but now here we are. Later, the concept of a passport system was embraced even by many Republicans. Denial of hospital care because you refuse a particular treatment. Nobody would ever argue for such. Only a short while later, this became a talking point of people in positions of power throughout the world. Surely the idea of people forcibly being rounded up and sent to camps is ludicrous, isn't it? Now the CDC is discussing the possibility of green zones, aka camps. What are we to believe if the purpose of the internment resettlement specialists? Was this just a benign job posting typical for the military to have? Or something else going on here, folks? If you have not subscribed to The Organic Prepper, I highly encourage you to do so. Folks, along with all these things, is walking a very fine line to having a prophetic word be spoken by thousands of year-old prophets, their voices still lingering in the present, and watching them being fulfilled on the world stage right now is uncanny. It's remarkable to witness these things that people from over 1,000 years ago foreseen. They didn't understand what they were seeing, but they said it, they spoke it, they wrote it, and here we have what they talked about 1,000 or more years ago. And God commanded them to do this, and they were obedient and did write these things down for us today so that we could believe, that there is only one true God. God is a family. Yahweh the Father, Yeshua the Son, Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit. To them, we owe our complete allegiance. 3 more articles, folks. All right, this one is, getting right up there. So, personal little thought here is oh my gosh, let me think back. Probably around May or June, probably closer to June. My employers whom I work for were trying to decide whether they wanted to go back to their home state for a reunion and to see family and do other things. And at that point, it was more, I think, back in May. And I was more like, yeah, I think I could pull that off. It's not bad. And then July came around and it's like, no, I think things are getting a little too fast and creepy out there in the world. And now here we are in August and all these things are happening super fast. And I just flat out told them I'm not going. So things are happening very, very quickly. And I want my little experience to be a thought for you in your mind if you're thinking about traveling right now and you are un-VAC'd. Be aware that wherever you're flying to or going, should you actually be able to get on an airplane. So let's say that you can actually get to your destination, but what if they won't let you on any flights coming back? How are you going to get home? What if they start closing down all the borders, state by state by state? How are you going to keep track of the ones that are still open so you can at least drive to the nearest state line to get through it to get back to your home? Folks, I really want you to think about how this is all being boxed in around us, how we are all being controlled like maze, like this is a maze and we are rats in the maze, okay? Let me introduce the bill to you, H.R. 4980, Permanent No-Fly Grounding for UnVAC'd. In this era of CV and VC hysteria, one would expect that legislation would be proposed to ban all non-VC'd individuals from the formerly friendly skies of U.S. aviation. This bill is sponsored by Representative Richie Torres, a Democrat of the New York, and co-sponsored by Representative Ed Case, a Democrat of Hawaii. Weird to think of. It has been referred to as the House Homeland Security Committee. H. 4980 to direct the Secretary of Homeland Security, to ensure that any individual traveling on a flight that departs from or arrives on an airport inside the U.S. or territory of the U.S. is fully VAC'd against CV-19 and for other purposes. The bill states to direct the Secretary of Homeland Security to ensure that any individual traveling on a flight that departs from or arrives to an airport inside the United States or a territory from the U.S. is fully VAC'd against the CV-19 for other purposes, be it enacted by the Senate and House of Reps of the U.S. to the assembled. Section 1. Air Transportation VAC Requirement. Section A, in general, Secretary of Homeland Security, acting through the administrator of the TSA, shall take such actions as are necessary to ensure that any individual traveling on a flight that departs from or arrives to an airport inside the U.S. or territories is fully VAC'd. Exception, Part B. In carrying out subsection, the Secretary shall ensure there is an exception to the requirement described in a subsection for the individual who is ineligible or medically unable to be fully VAC'd. And Part C definition, in this act, the full term fully VAC'd against CV-19 means receiving all recommended doses, that is licensed under the Section 351 of the Public Health Service Act, or the authorized for emergency use under the 564 of the Federal Food and Drug and Cosmetic Act. You can read more of this at technocracynews.com. And one final article before I get to the pièce de résistance is Ezekiel 38 and 39 unfolding right before our eyes. But you should have known this already. At a moment, much of the world sees the U.S. as in retreat from Central Asia amid the ongoing Afghan debacle. It increasingly looks like Russia and China are stepping in as the next great power influencers in the region. The timing of a Russian announcement detailing upcoming joint military exercises appear geared towards sending just such a message. This is where I'm saying, and I'm going back to my earlier statement, what if something really horrible is going behind the scenes, and even though Biden and the administration are being made out to be like fools, maybe they're scrambling their butts to try and compete with Russia, Iran, and China right now in a very secretive manner. I'm not giving any excuses for the Biden regime at any cost, because what they did is unspeakable. It's just horrible what they did. But what if something even greater You know, there's the saying that goes, and I first heard it from Spock on Star Trek, but it's so true. Spock says, logic clearly dictates that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. And Captain Kirk answered, or the one. This sets up that pivotal scene near the end of the film where basically Spock considered that to save the lives of his shipmates and the ship, he would sacrifice his own life. But indeed, as irony has it, they ended up sacrificing themselves to save the one. But obviously that sacrifice didn't come to all of them, and Spock was still saved. But what if something really weird like that is going on and we are just not all privy to it? I have to, I'm very scientific when I'm thinking about things, because if your hypothesis fails to produce a theory, then you've got to go back to the drawing board. And so I cannot get anywhere with this ignorance of this regime here. This just stupidity, the outright stupidity about what they're saying versus what they're doing behind the scenes. Okay, and I just presented all this information in this video, so I hope you comprehend where all of this might be going and what I'm talking about. So as this unfolds, Reuters says Russia, Iran, and China will hold joint maritime exercises in the Persian Gulf around late 2021 and early 2022. Make sure you keep that on your calendars. Keep that at the forefront in your head. Russia's ambassador to Tehran said the RIA news agency reported this on Monday. It's definitely no secret that Russia and Chinese militaries are closer than ever, but rarer still are the major drills involving these superpowers plus Iran, and that it's centered in the Persian Gulf. Look at what's been going on lately in the Persian Gulf. Iranian commandos briefly seized a foreign tanker, as well as a drone attack of the Israeli-managed Mercer Street tanker off the coast of Oman on July 30th. So basically, the Russian ambassador to Tehran stated Russia, Iranian, and Chinese warships are taking part in this. The main aim is to practice action on ensuring that the international shipping safety and combating of sea pirates. So the Russian official also addressed the recent tanker incident of the summer. The tensions are indeed especially following the tanker incident in the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman. So please keep all of this in your head as the rest of this year goes on. No matter what's going on, no matter what crisis gets blown up on our face, there's always some darker liquid boiling in the background behind the crisis that you're witnessing. Okay, time for the pièce de résistance. I cannot wait for this article. When I saw this, my mouth just dropped to the floor, because literally, if you're not watching the Catholic News Agency at all times, you're going to miss these little tidbits, because nobody talks about this stuff anywhere, because very few people believe that the false prophet is working right now in this day and age, preparing the world to receive the Antichrist and to take his bestial mark, okay? That is his whole purpose of existence, is to lead the dumb sheep astray, lead them to the slaughter. You will find this link in the description box below, called cruxnow.com. Vatican launches 7-year Laudato Si action plan. This is unbelievable. So Laudato Si means, it's translated from Latin, praised be you. As the Vatican's special year dedicated to papal encyclical Laudato Si, praised be you, comes to a close, and mind you, this was back in May 25th of 2021 this year, they have launched a, catch it, 7-year action plan designed to encourage strategic actors to commit to achieving total sustainability with Pope Francis environmentally advocate as a guide. His total advocacy in this. May 25th video message, Francis, false prophet Francis, called the action plan the Laudato Si, blessed be you, action platform, a journey that will see our communities committed in different ways to becoming totally sustainable in the spirit of integral ecology. And I quote, keep going, he says, for a long time now, this house that hosts us suffers as a result of wounds that we cause by our predatory attitude, which makes us feel that we are masters of the planet and its resources and authorizes us to make irresponsible use of the goods God has given us, he said, arguing that his attitude has caused a quote-unquote ecological crisis without precedent. He went on to say that the CV pandemic has not only highlighted the damage done to the planet, but it has also disproportionately impacted the poor, illustrating that, quote unquote, everything is interconnected and interdependent, and that our health is not separated from the health of the environment in which we live. We need a new ecological approach, he said. He called for an internal human ecology that involves not only environmental questions, but also mankind in his entirety, and which is capable of listening to the cry of the poor and of being leaven for a new society. Let me read that last part for you again, what he stated out of his own mouth. That involves not only environmental questions, but also mankind in his entirety, and which is capable of listening to the cry of the poor and of being leaven for a new society. Do you know what leaven means? Leaven, in especially the New Testament, is always referred to as sin, and how when you place just a little seed of sin into an unleavened flour mixture and you let it work it through, it's going to leaven the whole bunch, and you're going to get rising bread out of this. So the whole idea of Passover is that you eat unleavened bread for a whole week because you're trying to get rid of the leavening out of your life. And he's literally saying that we need to put this leaven in for a new society to come in. Man, this is making my God bumps come up all over me right now. False prophet Francis said, humanity has a duty to future generations to overcome selfishness, indifference, and irresponsible habits, asking faithful to respect creation and inaugurate a lifestyle and a society that is finally eco-sustainable. Wow. How come he's not talking about obeying the commandments of God? Because God's the one who created the earth, so he actually knows how it functions. And if God created the laws to make us function as productive human beings and good stewards of the earth, that if we obey God in how to keep these laws and be obedient, that we might actually have an abundance of blessings from Yahweh because we're obeying his word and how we're supposed to treat his creation. It's a no-brainer, folks. I barely made it out of high school, and I actually went to college for 2 years to try and make up for the blundering mess that I didn't want to do while I was in high school, because I was trying to get my degree in development cellular biology and a double bachelor in biochemistry. And so that's what I was working towards. And God said, no, you are not going here. And he made me fail at it. I couldn't believe what was going on at the time. I knew he was working through me. And so I didn't get angry. I just let God do what he wanted to do in my life. And he moved me in such radical ways. I can't even begin to describe to you all of the stuff that took place. But for the false prophet to say that mankind has a duty to the future generations to overcome our selfishness, indifference, and irresponsible habits, all of this stuff is in the Bible. Once you become a Christian and you teach people Christianity and how to walk with God and his ways, then you don't have to ask the faithful to respect creation, because they respect God because God created the creation. They know how this works. And we got to get our knowledge and wisdom from God, not this agenda that they're trying to put out. Okay, and so he says, and quote unquote, inaugurate a lifestyle and a society that is finally eco-sustainable. That has nothing to do with the Bible, folks. It has everything to do with Lucifer's entire plan for the human race to take you off track, to take you away from Yahweh's knowledge and wisdom of how he wants you, who has been created in God's image and likeness, how he wants you to be a good steward of the land. That is that's up to us, the individual who comes to God. That lifestyle is created in our relationship with Yeshua and the Father in heaven. And that society is built by a group of individuals who believe in the same thing and who are walking with God in the same way. Then you start reaping the blessings. Then you start partaking of the earth. And the earth is joyful and full because she's given rests. She's planted abundantly. She's producing. Folks, we aren't getting any of this right now. And they're still pushing for her destruction. So he outlined seven different goals for 7 years. Okay, there's a lot of sevens here. For the action plan, Laudato Si, which he said were the response to the cry of the earth. Oh, is the earth crying? The response to the cry of the poor. Well, who's responsible for that? Aren't you digging deep into your pockets and, sharing with your fellow neighbor? The ecological economy, the adoption of the simple way of life, ecological education, spirituality, and community engagement. They are urging people active in all sectors of societies to work together, the false prophet says. And he says this will be a process and that's outlined in different stages and implementation processes, which he said will be a synoidal process. This 7-year plan is based upon the biblical significance of the number 7. They're purposely putting the stamp of God's approval on this, even though God may or may not have done it. They're still going to say, well, look, we're doing God's number here. This is false. Total false, folks. Just because you use things that God has created doesn't mean that he stamped it for your abuse and approved of it. So, year 1, this is step 1, he said will be dedicated to planning through community building, resource sharing, and drafting local action plans. The next 5 years will be dedicated to concrete action, while this last year will be a quote-unquote sabbatical year dedicated to praise and thanking God, he said. Do you see the distortion and the absolute disgustedness at this? They are literally taking God's Sabbath year, which begins at Rosh Hashanah 2021 this year on the evening of September 6th at sunset, dusk, folks, that begins that sabbatical year of rest. I have been talking about this on this channel. I can't tell you how important it is that God says to let the land rest. Do not reap, do not sow, do not prune anything that you have planted, but you can go out and forage for food that you have not planted. Also, all debts are to be forgiven at this time. And also on top of this, every slave must be released because of the year of release, folks. Notice how he's taking the place of God and authorizing these things to be different from what God has stated in his word. So he goes on to say, this process can only be achieved through the partnership of the spirit of the synodal path to which false prophet Francis is inviting the whole of humanity. He said, the next 7 years will be a synodal journey working together. He went on in the video message, false prophet Pope Francis said, there is hope. We can all collaborate, each one with his own culture and experience, each one with her own initiatives and capacities, so that our, catch it, Mother Earth may be restored to her original beauty and creation, may once again shine according to God's plan. Wow. This is out of the false prophet's mouth himself, calling the earth our mother. Like she gave birth to us. She's not our mother, folks. We have a mother. We have a birth mother. And she was made in the image and likeness of God. Period. The earth belongs to the Lord. And everything in the earth belongs to Yahweh. So there you have it. The pièce de résistance of the false prophet. Again, speaking about the 7 year totally, and at the end of this article, he says the synchronization of these dates and that nothing is set in stone and that these plans could change. Ultimately, do you realize that it ultimately revolves around an event to take place when they can set their little 7 year plan in order? Do you get what I'm saying right now? There is coming an event that Yahweh himself is going to start to intervene in the lives of mankind. Okay? When God starts intervening, it's going to be big. A lot of people are going to realize what just happened. And this event is going to be so outrageous that everybody's going to know what time it is, and everybody's going to be on the 7 year track to Armageddon. With that said, as the earth prepares for war, heaven is preparing for a wedding. For anyone who's watching the events of not just the last few weeks, but the last, few years, it has become increasingly clear day by day that the world is going through a cataclysmic change and upheaval. All the signs are there. The world is preparing for war on a global scale, on a nationwide scale. Folks, I'm a flat earther, okay? I can debate you 300 scriptures to none, okay? Telling you the earth is flat. When they say global, that is the deception, the lie in which they've snared everyone who wants to believe the lies of Satan instead of reading their Bibles, the Word of God, and knowing what He says about how He made the earth and how He fashioned the firmament with His hands and rolled it up onto the pillars on the earth. Okay, just saying, I digress. At the same time that all of these things are happening, heaven is preparing for a wedding. Down below, hell is enlarging itself to be able to accommodate the coming increase, and up above, The finishing touches are being put on the mansions, your mansion, and it is absolutely mind-blowing. But folks, I have to tell you something. If you don't repent and turn from your sins and start obeying our Lord and Savior, Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus the Christ, your mansion's going to go to someone else. Just saying. Revelation 11:15, and the seventh angel sounded, and there was a great voice in heaven saying, the kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of our Lord and of his Christ, and he shall reign forever and ever. None of us in the alternative media who believe in Yeshua come to you with the dystopian escapism or pie in the sky by and by. These times don't allow for such ineffectual trivialities, some trite contrivances. These are cold, hard facts, folks. The most amazing events imaginable waiting to the born-again believer is the marriage of the Lamb. This is unbelievable. For thousands and thousands of years, people have been waiting for this moment. Wars have been fought for this moment. And above all else, Yeshua has strived with men to keep the plan of God going through the generations for this moment to come. This sin-cursed earth is literally cracking at the seams, and it waits. It's waiting for the son of perdition to be released from his own place. You and I, who have made our Lord, Yeshua HaMashiach, our God and King. Praise be to Yahweh and his Son. We are all booked on the flight number 777. As we take off, the bullets are going to be flying outside of the windows and the tips of our shoelaces melting from the heat. I want to remind you of what awaits and why it's well worth it, no matter what we have to endure here on the earth to obtain it, no matter if we hate our lives and we lose it so that we can attain it for the kingdom of Yahweh. It is so worth it, folks. This is it, folks. Buckle up. It's a-coming. Get your house in order. Right now, my house is an absolute disaster. You should see all of the food I have everywhere that I need to can and dehydrate and cut up to freeze. It's just a disaster. But slowly but surely, I'm getting it all in order while maintaining a 40-hour work week job. So my suggestion to you is, if your house, even your spiritual house, is in total disarray, start with the first thing first. Pick up that little banana peeling from the side of the corner of your living room. Pick it up, put it in the garbage. Woo! You just started. What an awesome path you're on. It's almost clean. Keep going, folks. Keep striving for that walk with Yahweh, because you're never going to find a better friend in this world, a best friend in this world, who will be with you until the very end of all things. He's never left your side. He is always with you, and he will never leave your side. He is a faithful and loving God and King. I love you all so very much. I pray you are preparing for Shemitah. I pray that the Lord blesses all of us so that we can have all that we need to get through Shemitah, even until the next harvest season after Shemitah. Keep looking up, folks. Our redemption draweth nigh. Praise Yahweh in heaven, the Most High God.